All right. How you doing, folks? Ron Raymond here along with Ross Benjamin of RBWins.com for a football Friday. It is Friday, November 6th. Hopefully you guys are having yourself a good start to your morning. As always, I'm joined here by my good friend co-host, Ross Benjamin. How you doing, Ross?
That's all good, Ron. It's the weekend. It's football weather. And, actually not football weather because it's going to be mild on the East Coast this week. We're going to touch upon the Seattle-Buffalo game in a little while. And it's mild on the East Coast when it's going to be 65 and sunny in Buffalo on Sunday in mid-November or early November, I should say.
Yeah, I know they're calling for double digits like here in Ottawa, like 16, 18. It's like, I just put my shorts away and all that. Take that out. But hey, good.
Well, it's 16 or 8. So for the people in the States, it's 16 and 18 Celsius, not Fahrenheit. So
yeah, exactly.
You got to go, 2.5 times to make it Fahrenheit, something like that, Ron.
So let me see here. 18 Celsius to Fahrenheit would be, we're talking about 64 here.
Yeah, well, that's right where Buffalo is going to be on Sunday. So
yeah, between weather and gas, we got our metrics all wrong, eh?
Yeah, man. Look, hockey season doesn't start to January, so 64-degree temperatures in November. I don't know where am I going with this anyway.
I feel like we're in the remember that Seinfeld show, Bizarre World. That's where we're at right now. We're getting hockey in the summer. We're getting football in the winter. Well, what the hell's going on in this world right now?
I know this is an NFL show, but I'm a little concerned when I see some of the owners now are trying to are expressing their opinions that they wish this season gets canceled because it looks like with COVID-19, it's going to prohibit or limit fans from coming into the building. Man, I hope that doesn't happen. I understand the economics of the game, but that would be a shame if that occurs.
Yeah, and I didn't see that, but I did see the NBA, trying to do a December 22nd start.
Yeah.
And have, some fans in the stands.
72 game schedule instead of 82.
Which I'm fine with that. I think there's too many games in some sports anyways.
Yeah, and the NHL, they're talking about a 48 game schedule, possibly. You know what I mean? Wow. Again, you don't know what's rumor and I know Gary Bettman's adamant that there's going to be a season. So that goes a long way. And there being a season when your commissioner's that adamant.
Yeah, so that's good. Yeah. Football Friday. You know what? We had a game last night, Green Bay. It was one of those nights where it's you knew what Green Bay was going to be about, but you really had no idea what San Francisco and listening to the broadcast. Shanahan had to redo his game plan like the night before. And they tried their best. They gave it a good shot, but unfortunately, this is what you get with a Thursday night game, right? Yeah. And to me, I think you got to get rid of these Thursday night games. I ever since I've been young playing football is a weekend thing. You got the Monday night game, but it's such a physical sport that you need to prepare and let the players' bodies rest during the week. Let them mentally, like we don't talk about enough about the mental health of football players needing that week of rest. And it's sometimes I can just imagine if I knew some of these players talking to them, I guarantee 80% of them hate these Thursday night games.
Oh, yeah. To a man, and I can guarantee that 32 NFL head coaches hate it too. Look, there's a big difference between playing a Monday night primetime game where you're getting an extra day of rest and then playing on 3 days rest. And then if you have to travel on 3 days rest, it's even more of a toll on a team, although that didn't show up last night. But, Green Bay was playing a half-manned San Francisco team, with all the injuries and the COVID issues and such. Again, I don't know. I didn't watch the game. I had no interest in it. I just thought, this game, I didn't have a play in the game, and sometimes you need just to step away. But looking at the statistics this morning, Ron, I don't understand how teams allowed Davante Adams, their only legitimate threat at wide receiver, to go crazy. And again, it happened last night, 10 catches for 173 yards. Not for nothing. If he's beating double teams all night long, God bless him. I'll tip my cap. But I can't believe that's the case. 12 targets and 10 receptions. That's awfully efficient, Ron.
Oh yeah, and in the league where you breathe on a guy, there's a PI. It's
Yeah,
just
exactly.
like yeah, he had a good night. And it was like watching Seattle last night, seeing the deep ball be thrown with the nice arc, and Adams had a good night. Rogers was good.
Yeah.
San Fran again, just
They're
man short.
depleted. Yeah, they're depleted, so
So Ross, yeah, you know what? Football Friday. We got Seattle, Buffalo on the slate here. We got Chicago, Tennessee, Miami, Arizona, New Orleans, Tampa Bay. That's going to be a good one to talk about. And then we're going to kick it off and finish it with Baltimore, Indianapolis. Good game right there. And but before we get going, don't forget, folks, if you are interested in our selections for the NFL this weekend or college football, you can get them at ATSstats.com or RBWins.com, where Ross is. That's where he hangs his hat on his website. And Ross, what do you got going this weekend?
Well, I'm going to have plenty of action. I got 2 games going tonight in college football. Both of them are posted right now at ATSstats.com. There you can get my weekly and monthly subscriptions. If you're just somebody who likes to dabble in once in a while, my daily packages, which include these 2 games tonight, you can get those at RBWins.com. Been red hot in the NFL, Ron. 26 and 15, excuse me, over my last 41, 10 and 5 over my last 15. So been on fire in the NFL since the first Monday night of the year, and also college football, 3 to 5 selections on Saturday in addition to the 2 today.
Right on. And I'll have my I got some college football picks up right now, and I will have my NFL this afternoon. And Ross, good morning from Stephen Lewis and our good friend Eric Catherine, who's on the live chat. And guys, don't forget, you can join us each and every day right here, Tuesday to Friday. And once the NHL and NBA get going, we might go 5 days a week. But we encourage you guys to, let us know what you think in the chat. If you agree, disagree, we both got broad shoulders. We can take it. And hopefully we can have a lot of fun here today on a Football Friday.
Yeah.
All right, Ross.
Now, let me just say this. There's nothing wrong with disagreeing with our opinion. Nobody's going to shut you down on the chat. It's when you start to get belligerent and disrespectful, okay? Not only don't I tolerate it or Ron tolerates it, but then you're making it uncomfortable for the rest of the people in the chat. So I just thought I'd say that, Ron.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And, we're here for a good time, not a long time. And, hey, we're all friends here. That's why we're all here. And, and sometimes in life, you got to agree to disagree. And, you can't paint a Picasso every day, right? And as much as we'd love to have a Picasso and give you guys great picks, and but what you are getting is you're getting our best effort, you're getting our knowledge, our experience, and in the meantime, you get our little bit of our quirky sense of humor, and hopefully we can have a really good hour here of football. And again, the show is only good as much as the feedback we can get and what we deliver, and hopefully we can do that on a good Football Friday. All right, Ross, I'm on the ball here. I got the SBI up. I'm sure people can see that right now. And let's take a look at what has come in the last few weeks here since the beginning of the year. And if you look at the bottom here, year to date, 67.7 of the favorites have won this year, 32.6 straight up. And the over-unders, this is like a touch football league so far.
Yeah.
8.8% of the overs have cashed in, 41.2 of the unders. And when you're looking at the ATS, that's pretty balanced. And, this is where it's always the real fight between us and the bookmakers.
Yeah, but look at the
49.6 and 48.2. Yeah, and for the favorites, just 1 point ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry, Ron. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
that's okay.
What jumped out at me is look at the underdogs the last 4 weeks, though. 61% in week 5, 66.7% in week 6. 50%. I don't know how that's 50 and 42.9. There must have been a lot of pushes in there.
Yep.
And 71% last week. Wow.
Yeah.
It's really, so that tells me you could see what that means. Early on, the favorites were cashing in, and now all the underdogs are coming in, and now we're on a level playing field. Like Ron has always professed, it usually evens out over time.
Yeah, and if you recall on, I think it was Tuesday, we did our show and we had the SBI and we talked about when are the favorites going to have the week? Right now, it's been a neutral market. Neutral means a balanced market between the bookmakers line and us trying to beat it. But look here, like Ross indicated, these 3 underdogs weeks out of the 3 out of 5 weeks, and we're not going to count week 9 because there's only one game last night. But eventually, Ross, I think the favorites are going to start cashing a bit. Because right now the bookmakers are, in the last 4 weeks, 3 of the last 4 weeks have gone to the bookmakers, and they're smiling like a butcher's dog right now because they're making a lot of money right now in the last couple of weeks.
Absolutely, because what Ron means by that, with no disrespect to anybody, but if you get beyond the professionals and the savvy sports bettors, most people are what we call squares. There's not a favorite they don't like. They haven't seen a favorite they don't like, I should say. Yep. And most people like to bet the over all the time, so they're doing pretty well to this point, if that's the case.
All right, let's kick it off with our first game on the slate, Ross. We're going to go Seattle versus Buffalo. This here is going to be a great game. You got Seattle now as a road favorite, which they were at the opening, a -3 road favorite. The over-under at 54.5. The ATS forecast, the computer pick, going to lean with the Seahawks here, 30-27. The over-under at 57. And looking at the Bills' last 5 games, 3-2 straight up, 1-4 against the number, 3-2-0 to the over. Where Seattle 4-1 straight up. The only loss was that Arizona, 3-2 against the number, 3-2 to the over. Looking at the PVI here, Ross, for the I'm just going to bring up the just 1 second here. I'm going to bring up the free rain report because the line that we have here at the rain report on this game. And just right here. Perfect. We had Seattle at -5.8 and Buffalo at 0.13. So basically, my line on this game of the rain report had Buffalo at pick'em, and we had Seattle at -5. But, look at Seattle on the season, 6-1, 2-1 on the road. Not a lot of road games. It's still pretty balanced, 4-3, which isn't too bad. 5-2 to the over, but Buffalo. You look at this Buffalo team, and we're not used to seeing an offense in Buffalo the last couple of years, right? So we're seeing more of an offense of a unit here in Buffalo because we're used to seeing good defense in Buffalo the last few years, but now it's kind of reversed a bit.
Yeah, it has. They can't stop the run. If you take away the 2 Jets games, Buffalo's defense is vastly underachieved and certainly needs to improve. And it's a concern going into this game against a high-powered offense like Seattle has. You talked about the over and unders for both teams, 6-2 and 5-2 to the over. The total in this game is 55. And, I think it's justified. And like I alluded to earlier, Ron, you can't ask for a better weather forecast in early November than you're going to get in Buffalo on Sunday, which is 65 and sunny, which is going to be conducive to the offenses operating at a high degree of efficiency, I think. You look at Buffalo's last couple home games, and people want to know why Josh Allen's numbers haven't been as good as they've been to start the year. Well, all you have to look at the Kansas City game, it was raining and blowing wind throughout. Last week against New England, there was 20 to 30 mile an hour winds. And Buffalo also ran the ball extremely well last week against New England, so they didn't pass as much. So don't get caught up with Josh Allen's numbers going down a bit. I don't think it's indicative of poor play. I just think it's the weather conditions and the circumstances in the game. And we all know Russell Wilson throws one of the prettiest deep balls, Ron, in all of football. This promises to be an extremely entertaining game. I'd be disappointed if it wasn't.
And here's the thing, Ross. Russell Wilson's been awesome on offense. In fact, looking at they are the number 1 offense in the league, averaging 34.3 points a game. However, that defense is allowing 28.4 points a game. They're ranked 24th in against the points against. So, in Buffalo going into this one, ranked 19th on offense, ranked 15 on defense, which is a little bit surprising because we've been talking about Buffalo's offense been better this year, but statistically it hasn't been a great year for the Bills. But hey, you know what? They're first place in the AFC East. They are 6-2 in the season. But the thing that concerns me going into this game, Ross, is the last 4 games. They are 0-4 against the point spread. And you got to
Yeah.
take a look here. And the thing that concerns me is this. Look at the quarterbacks they've faced in the last 4 games. Tannehill, Mahomes, Darnold, and Cam Newton. 3 of the 4, okay, the one that really scares me is Mahomes. Tannehill, I'm still, the jury's out on him. I think he's just in a good system with a great running game. And they always say a quarterback's best friend is a good running game. And I think that's what's really helping Tannehill in Tennessee. You got, Mahomes, to me, he's the MVP of the league. This guy is just unbelievable. Darnold, just, it's too bad he's on a bad team because we really can't get a good judge of what he's like. And then you got, Cam Newton is an option quarterback, and he's just right now, let's be honest, the Patriots are, they're rebuilding.
Yeah, and not only that, in Cam Newton's defense, that receiving core from New England leaves a heck of a lot to be desired. Nobody's a game breaker. Nobody stretches the field there. And now they're without Julian Edelman. So that's pretty tough. You can go back another 2 games. I mean, Derek Carr's a pretty good quarterback for the Raiders, puts up pretty good numbers. And then Jared Goff, you know what I mean, Ron? So they faced some very good quarterbacks in 5 of the last 6 games. They're 0-4 against the spread in their last 4. This is only the second time all season that Buffalo will be installed as an underdog. And the only other time was the Kansas City game, and they didn't fare well there, So that would be a concern to me. How they need a win against a quality opponent, Ron. Now, having said that, they have beat the Dolphins, who are currently 4-3. They beat the Rams, who are currently 5-3. And they had one other quality win in there, the Raiders, who are 4-3. So again, those aren't the top teams in football right now, though. You need to beat teams like Kansas City. You need to beat teams like Seattle to be taken seriously when it comes to being a legitimate contender.
One thing I look for when I look at teams' resume is where's that signature win, right?
Yeah.
Where's that signature win for the Bills this year? 35-32 against the Rams was a nice, they had a great lead and they blew it.
Yeah.
It wasn't from, 0 to 100. That was a perfect game. The Raiders game, it was a nice win. Titans, these 2 games the COVID factor played a role here.
Yeah.
The Jets
scheduling all out of whack. You know what I mean?
So I don't see a big signature win here for Buffalo. And when I look at Seattle, where's their signature win, right? So the Falcons, Patriots, Cowboys, Dolphins, Vikings, Cardinals. So none of these teams, in my view, have a great.
You would say the Cardinals, but they lost that game. That was their only loss.
And they were leading
you can
by
make
10.
a case Buffalo's played a tougher schedule, especially if you take the 2 Jets games out of the equation.
Yeah. And they gave up a 10-point lead in the 4th quarter against the Cardinals. So, and that's that defense, right?
Well, the defense, you said they're not good in scoring, right? 24th, I think you said. They're dead last in total defense, Ron. They're giving up 460.9 yards per game. That includes 359 yards per game in the air they're giving up. So, again, I've been harping on this all along. You can't continue to win by asking your quarterback to play out of this world the way he is right now. We saw when Russell Wilson didn't have a great game against Arizona, where he threw 3 picks, including 2 in the second half, and they lost that game. Sooner or later, you're going to have to stop people. If you don't, you can't continue to win the games with the finals. I mean, look at the final scores, Ron. Could you scroll down, please, if you don't mind? Thank you. I appreciate that, Ron. 37-27. They lose 37-34, 27-26, 31-23 against the Dolphins, 38-31, 35-30, 38-25. I mean, they haven't held the team all year to under 23 points. It puts a lot of pressure on your offense, Ron. And sooner or later, I'm sorry, and then you mentioned the fact that, where's their quality win? You're right. I mean, the 49ers aren't a quality win anymore, especially they played them shorthanded. The one team that you could have made a case was the Cardinals, and they lost that game. I mean, I'm not ready to say a win over the Dolphins is a quality win yet. I'm sorry. I know they're 4-3, but we'll talk about the Dolphins a little later.
Yeah. And the one thing with Seattle, what are we always talking about on offense? We're talking about their passing game. We're
Yeah.
not talking much about the running game because the running backs are always injured. Like Chris Carson is questionable for this weekend. I'm seeing Greg Olson. He's a tight end. He's
What
questionable.
about Carlos Hyde? Is he?
Carlos Hyde. I'm not seeing him here. So, but I think he's on the injured reserve, isn't he?
Yeah, I'm not sure. But anyway, I think they're down to their third string running back, Ron, if I'm not mistaken.
And that's, but see, unlike Tennessee, it's like the opposite offense. Tennessee has a great running game, but no passing game. Seattle, great passing game. If Buffalo can get ahead of this, the Seahawks, in this game, it's going to force more passing. And I think here's two factors. Number one, look what the bookmakers, where do they put this game on the board? Nevada rotation. It's on the Silver Bullet Play of the Week last week.
Right at the top of the board.
Right at the top. They know they want to kill all those parlays by putting Seattle because they know everybody's going to be betting on Seattle this weekend, right?
Yeah.
And again, Seattle going to Buffalo. They're not a team that I've seen that, they've done well on East Coast.
They've done real well on East Coast. Matter of fact, Seattle's been a better road team than at home the last couple of years, if you could believe that,
Yeah.
So,
but I know the public sentiment, and a lot of people are going to be betting Seattle. I'm going to be taking the Buffalo Bills this weekend. And I'm not talking with my heart because I'm a Bills fan. To me, I'm a law of average guy. And I think there's value here. And the fact that we've lost four, the Bills, not me, we as if I'm on the coaching staff or something. Okay? The fact that the Bills have lost four games against the spread, this is a big game for Buffalo this weekend. Every game's big. When I was coaching with Breezy, he'd always say to the players, the biggest game of the year is always the next game. And right now, this is the next game. That's the biggest game. And I like Buffalo plus the points this weekend, Ross. I think it's going to be one of my contest plays.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you. Sometimes when it comes to Buffalo, I'm a professional in every sense of the word. I try to stay objective, but I'm not going to lie. They're my team since I've been a kid. You know what I mean? So I want, when it comes to making a decision on Buffalo, Ron, I really have to look in the mirror when I want to play on them. Am I letting my heart get in the way?
Yeah.
And that's my dilemma when I evaluate a Buffalo game, and I'll leave it at that.
And I think looking at the numbers, Ross, in the last 10 games overall between these two clubs, the over has hit 90%. And when Seattle travels to Buffalo, the over is 4-0. I think the over is going to get a lot of action this weekend.
Get a lot of action, sure, especially on when the weather's real good, the way it's supposed to be, and Seattle's terrible defense. It's encouraging if you're a Buffalo fan is the fact they ran for 198 yards last week against New England, and both of their running backs went over 80 yards rushing, Singletary and Moss. So that's encouraging. But Seattle typically over the last 2 years has been very tough to run against. There's been a couple occasions this year that's not been the case. But Buffalo's going to have to establish the run, Ron. If they can establish the run, if both teams can establish the run, we might see a game again in the 30s for both teams. So we'll see. I'm looking forward to it, Ron.
Hey, the challenge for the Buffalo defense coordinators, as much as we talked about the linebackers, it's going to be the secondary on how do you contain Metcalf and don't lose the sight of Lockett. Lockett in that Arizona game destroyed them.
Yeah. I mean, they got that DK Metcalf's a monster, and you're right. All of a sudden, you double team him, and you get Lockett in single coverage. He could beat anybody in the league. So again, a tough matchup for both defenses, I think, in this game. And I think another thing to take a look at, Ron, is who wins the turnover battle. Now, I know that's hard to predict. You know what I mean? All he could do is go by their turnover margin on the year. And Seattle's slightly better in that area. So again, Buffalo, if they want to win this game against a quality opponent like Seattle, they got to win the turnover battle as well.
Yeah. Chicago coming off that big loss last weekend to New Orleans. Big in the sense where they really self-destroyed that game. It got ugly in the middle. Troy Aikman was all over him. and Mims taking a shot, like so unprofessional for
Yeah.
a player to take a swing when you got kids watching and you're representing a franchise like the Chicago Bears. It was just it wasn't a good moment for Matt Nagy and the Chicago
Yeah.
Bears. Now they're traveling up to Tennessee, taking on the Tennessee Titans as a 6.5-point road underdog. The over-under is set here. I'm seeing 47. The forecast, Ross, going to lean with Tennessee here, 22-15. The over-under to land on 37.4. Talk about a team that really, almost identical. And when you look at their offense, right? Good running team. Normally, Chicago is a good running team. This year, the offense has just been anemic. Looking at their standings here, ranking 28th in the league in points for, but the defense, that defense is bend don't break type defense. It's a playoff type defense. But if they can get their offense together, they'd be in a good shape. Only allowing 20.8 points against, and Tennessee ranking 6th on offense, but 18th on defense. So you're going into a game where one's offense is better than the other, but the other defense. So this is going to boil down to Chicago's defense against Tennessee's actually running game. I don't know, Ross, this one here. I got early leans and indicators pointing to Tennessee.
Yeah. You mentioned Tennessee's defense. That's a concern. I mean, 26.3 points per game allowed thus far, and 397 yards allowed per game, Ron. And the only reason those stats aren't worse is the fact that they've been able to force 12 turnovers thus far. Wow. It's bailed them out. The Bears have no run offense. I mean, they did run for 106 yards last week, but prior to that, they were averaging 43 yards per game and less than 3 yards per carry in their previous 4 games. So I don't expect them to be able to run the ball effectively. And if they become one-dimensional, that's a problem. Tennessee, on the other hand, if they're able to run the ball good with Derrick Henry leading the way, that opens up play action pass. I got a nice angle here on the total, Ron.
Nice.
Anytime you have a home team like Tennessee and they're coming off a road favorite straight up loss by 10 points or more. Remember last week they played at Cincinnati. They were a 7-point favorite in that game and they lost 31-20.
Yep.
Home team off a road favorite straight up loss by 10 or more, 23-5 to the under since 2016. The average total in those 28 games was 46.1, which is right at the number we're seeing right now. It's 47, I believe. And the average combined points scored per game in those 28 contests is 38.7. So something to keep in mind on there because Chicago is very good defensively, and Tennessee hasn't been good defensively, but this is the kind of game the Tennessee defense can get well against, as you alluded to, Ron, a pretty anemic Chicago Bears offense.
Well, I like that totals system because you got a Tennessee team. You can look at both sides of the coin here. One, if they get a lead, they can run the ball and run the clock. Yeah. Two, if they fall behind, they don't have the passing game to really catch up. So if you do like the under, that's a great, and considering both teams came off an over, I do like the percentage play. The Kogo's at 48%. So the rain report, which, it's borderline pretty much a balance. I do like that. The chance of covering, according to our stats, Ross, according to the law of average, we have Tennessee at 62% covering, 35% for the Bears. And you know what? Chicago.
What's the Kogo on this game?
It's at 48%.
Okay, so it's a level playing field.
Yeah, exactly. Chance of winning 60% straight up compared to 30%. And looking at the Chicago Bears, 5-3 straight up, 5-3 against the number, and Tennessee 5-2, 3-4. And for the psyche of this team, for Tennessee, let's be honest here. The last 2 weeks have not been, it hasn't been probably a fun sideline to be on. You go to Cincinnati and in a game that you're a 7.5 point or a 7-point favorite and you lose to the Bengals, and I know, the Cincinnati kid is doing phenomenal over there. Bengals are looking, they're not the same Bengals from last year.
Yeah.
They're very competitive, but those are games
you got to win.
Tennessee's a playoff type team. You got to win those games. You got to find a way to win. just like Pittsburgh's always doing, finding a way to win. The good teams find a way to win those games. Either it's coaching, either it's the running game, the passing game. But I look at Chicago, look at their last couple of games. 26-23 loss to the Saints. They lost on that Sunday nighter to the Rams. Okay, they beat the Panthers. 2019 to the Bucks. This here really has a Thursday night game.
Yep.
Where Tampa Bay probably weren't mentally into it. Like we saw Tampa Bay now. Think about this. Last Monday they played a Monday night game and then a Thursday night game. They don't do well unless they're playing on Sunday. It seems, right?
Yeah, the Bears are 3-1 on the road too, Ron. Their only loss at the Rams, so it's not like they haven't been good on the road. You made the point about the Cincinnati game, and I'm just going to say this because I could tell you my reasoning why I like Cincinnati in that game was the fact that Tennessee was coming off that heartbreaker against Pittsburgh, 2 undefeated teams. And as we alluded to several times over the course of our shows, Ron, when it comes to the NFL shows in particular, is playing Pittsburgh and playing Baltimore, teams like that, when you're coming off games against physical teams, oftentimes it doesn't show up in that particular game as much as it does in the next one. And then also the fact that why I liked Cincinnati more than I would like Chicago against Tennessee is the fact that Cincinnati and Joe Burrow has been able to move the ball all year through the air. And Tennessee's big weakness right now, Ron, is stopping the pass. So I don't think Chicago's passing game presents that same challenge. And, this is a tough call because Tennessee is going to be in a sour mood after losing 2 in a row. So look forward to seeing what happens in this contest as well.
Yeah, and they're at home, right? So, it's what's their home record here? It's 3-1. They've had the home cooking really helps Tennessee. But again, you look at their scores when they do win, it's not a big blowout, right? Like 2-point win here, a 3-point win here. So that's the thing. They're almost like New Orleans.
Look at their first 3 wins, Ron. It's by a combined 4-6 points.
Actually, And if you do take Tennessee, it falls into my uncomfortable pick situation, right? Which I think I think we should do a segment at the end of the show called the uncomfortable pick segment, and then just pick the games where we think, goes basically it's a contrarian way of thinking, right? Like Buffalo,
exactly.
I think Buffalo, like we said in the first segment, is an uncomfortable pick. But no, you're right. I do for the if you do like Chicago, I do have a stat on the Chicago Bears I'm going to bring right here. It's not too bad, actually. When Chicago Bears are a road team during week 8 to 12, coming off an NFC opponent, and they're coming off back-to-back straight-up losses, 9-3 straight up. So not a bad record. And when Chicago's a road team as an underdog during week 8 to 12 and coming off an ATS win, 14-3 straight up, but 15-2 against the numbers. So, if you do like Chicago, I got numbers pointing that way, but to me, I look at this game, I look at the defense, and it comes down to this. Which unit is going to beat the best on this Sunday? Is it going to be Chicago's defense or is it going to be Tennessee's offense? And because they're at home, I do like Tennessee, but I just like that New Orleans factor, right? I think they win, but I don't know if they cover, but I don't know if I'll be touching this game.
Look, you know what? My betting angle, which is 23-500 a total, I'm not going to repeat everything again, but the combined score in those 28 games was 38.7.
Yep.
And the prediction by the computer here is a combined total of 37.74. So that's a little bit eerie. And you know what? I like when the computer's on my side, Ron, because it's done pretty good this year. You might want to show, hey, you know what? Could you do, I know this, I don't want to throw you out of structure and rhythm here, but show the people how good the computer's done this year in the NFL.
Yeah, the computer's done all right. Let's get the record here. Last 100 games for the NFL. And looking at, if you, like I said last week, if you're playing in those straight up contests and you're using the computer pick, you're hitting 79%. 69.3 against the spread and 72 with the total. So the totals have been pretty accurate. And hopefully we can keep that going for another week, right?
Yeah. Well, you're looking at, when you're talking about 100 games, you're looking at approximately 7 weeks of football. And we're in week 9 right now. So, it's done awfully well, I would say.
Yeah, no, it's been a strong factor. And the hardest thing with the computer is, and if you're like a bit of a contrarian, and all good things must come to an end. So every time I do
Yeah.
look at my computer, I'm always like, oh, I got to talk myself into it.
Yeah,
But
I mean, I said this 2 weeks ago. Sooner or later, look for a free fall here because it can't continue at this rate. But it has been. But you know what? I just think it's a matter of time. Um, I give you a lot of credit because whatever factors you incorporated in here to come up with a final score, it's done awfully well. And I don't care how good you are. You know what I mean? As a handicapper, somebody who designed computer models to predict final scores like this, you're not going to hit 70% all year long.
yeah,
So
no,
just keep that in mind, folks. Don't no brain your way through this.
yeah, thanks, I appreciate that.
No,
No,
but you know what I'm trying to say, Ron. I mean,
oh
it's
yeah,
not a slight to you at
yeah.
all. I mean, I'm complimentary towards you,
Oh no, and I
actually.
appreciate it. That's why I said
Hey,
thanks. I
yeah. Oh, I
appreciate.
thought you were saying.
Oh no, no, no. See, this is where my sarcastic sense of humor plays
Yeah,
a
there you
trick on
go.
everybody sometimes, eh? Because I
Yeah,
am
man.
sarcastic when it comes to. But yeah, no, like I said, Ross, the computer, the model that the algorithm we use, it's just sometimes it's eerie. Like you said, like it was a couple of weeks ago when I think it was New England playing Kansas City, and everybody was predicting a high scoring game, and the computer had something like 19-11, and it finished like 22-11.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
that,
And we were making fun of it.
yeah, exactly, right. And then I was
We
like,
we were
okay.
calling it. It was drinking last night. It had a hangover. It must have
Yeah. Hey,
smoked a
computer, you're
little
drunk.
weed
Go to
before. I don't know, but
yeah.
in any event, it was right.
Yeah.
So
Hey, computer, you're drunk. Go to bed.
exactly.
Yeah. All right. Hey, Miami Dolphins. Tua got his first win last week. Congrats to Tua and the Dolphins. You always got to be happy for a rookie getting his first win in the NFL. And he's soaking every minute of it. Now we'll see if that honeymoon's going to last because now they're going to Arizona to face the Cardinals, who are having a pretty good season. Kyler Murray. You know what? Talk about a jump from his rookie year to sophomore year. And man, this kid is really elite. Like in 2 years, like it's phenomenal the progress he's had, and he's not a really big guy. You know what I mean?
No,
Like
5'10"
yeah,
at the best.
yeah.
5'11" maybe.
On behalf of every 5'10" quarterback, we thank you for, But look at this: 5-2 straight up and against the spread, 1-5-1 to the under. Now this is where I lost track of you the other day when we were talking, and I was drifting off because I wanted to see how the unders did on those teams. But
Yeah.
I said I forgot I was going to get those futures, but the thing I do like, Ross, and we said this last Tuesday or Wednesday, any team that has a winning record, and it's not too many teams that have a winning record of 5-2, 6-1, or 7-0 have a unders record to complement it. So keep that in mind when you're buying futures tickets on the Arizona Cardinals. Now, Miami, 4-3, having a good season, 5-2 against the number. So better's a good friend right now. But you can thank that defense last week for that win over the Rams. And the Rams, I think, just got caught off a Monday. It was a Sunday night or Monday night. Traveled. They just
and they were playing a team
ready.
like Miami who was off a bye. Which is an advantageous position to be in if you were the home team last week.
Yeah. So looking at the computer here, Ross, 4.5 is the line on the Cards. The over under at 49.5. 30.09 and 19.17. The over-under at 49.2. So just a hair to the under. 4-1 straight up the last 5 games. And if you want to buy a futures ticket on the Miami Dolphins to win the AFC East, I wouldn't say it would be a bad idea. Who knows? 4-1 against the number, 1-4 to the under. Where Arizona 3-2 straight up, 3-2 against the number. Looking at this game here, Ross. Again, you got a team like Arizona. I believe they're coming off a bye. Yes, they are. 13 days rest. And then you got Miami probably still off that honeymoon win last week against the Rams. You give any team in the NFL 13 days to prepare for their next opponent. That's like a bowl game, And looking at this game, I got a slight lean so far to Arizona.
I agree with you, Ron. Both of these teams are surprise teams in a lot of people's eyes, not mine. But I could see why people didn't like either one of these teams going into the season. I went out on a limb, and right now I look pretty good, but there's still a lot of football left to be played, Ron. But not only are both of these teams surprise teams, they both are identically 3-0 straight up in ATS in their last 3 games. Now, that's where the similarity ends. Ron mentioned last week the Miami win. They were outgained in that game 471 to 145. This will be Tua's first start on the road. And as much as you look at Miami's point total last week of 28, it was very deceiving because Tua in that game was 12 out of 23 for 90 yards passing. That's it. Okay. They didn't ask him to do a lot, and they didn't have to because they were playing with the lead for most of the game. Keep in mind, the Dolphins forced 4 Rams turnovers, 2 of them resulting in short fields. One was a 78-yard fumble return for a touchdown. And then the Dolphins also had an 88-yard punt return in that game. So, I mean, during this 3-0 straight up and ATS run, the Dolphins are still averaging less than 300 yards of offense per game, Ron. And the Arizona offense in this current 3-game winning streak, Ron, they're averaging 35 points scored per game and 484 yards of total offense per contest. I think this really favors Arizona. We've seen some money come in on Miami, Ron, because this game opened at 6, if I'm not mistaken, and it's now down to 4. So, the public is falling in love with these underdog Dolphins. I can understand why, but at the end of the day, we've told you time and time again that you have to avoid having a short memory, and you got to look at all the specifics at hand. Look at the indicators, and you're better off doing that than just looking at last week's scores.
Yeah, I agree. I think Miami's been an opportunistic team that capitalized on certain situations during the game. Fumble recovers, pick sixes, and to me, I still, Tua is the quarterback now. I still don't agree with it. I still think
I don't either.
Yeah, I still think Patrick is your guy, and I got a feeling he will be the guy come week 12, week 11, 12, depending on what happens in the next few games for the Dolphins. Now, again, let's look at the signature wins here for Miami. I don't see many of them.
Well, the Rams you could count as a signature win for look at in the state of the franchise and where it's been the last couple of years, Ron. When you're able to knock off a 5-2 team, which the Rams were at that time, I would consider that a signature win. Probably early in the year, before the season started, if we told you that they were going to beat the 49ers on the road 43-17, I think we would sign that up as a signature win. But again, the 49ers, that win doesn't look as impressive as it did a couple weeks back. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, I get that. And maybe what I should clarify, when I look at teams, I look at quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Which quarterback, like when you beat Big Ben, when you beat Russell Wilson, you beat Tom Brady, Drew Brees, to me, that's what I classify a signature victory.
Yeah, Jared Goff's been to the Super Bowl a couple years ago.
Yeah, but Jared Goff, let's take a look at his record, his stats right now. He's 65.5% completion passing. Bill Walsh, one of the great quarterback gurus of our times, when he used to rate quarterbacks, he didn't care about how many yards. He just cared about your pass completions. How accurate are you as a quarterback? And looking at the top 3 quarterbacks in the NFL, remember I talked about this week.
Yes.
Top 3 most accurate quarterback. Drew Brees, number 1 of all time, in my opinion. I've seen videos of him hitting the moving targets. It's phenomenal that video I saw.
Lacks the arm strength, right, Ron? But he's certainly accurate.
Yeah, but the age is there. Teddy Bridgewater, number 2 in the league at 71.6% pass completion, and Russell Wilson 71.5%. Jared Goff, looking at his pass completions, 65.5%. It's still good. But
middle of the pack, maybe, Ron? Is that middle of the pack?
Oh, he's ranked 24th right now in the league.
Yeah. Oh, so, really? In pass complete? Wow.
Yeah. So pass completion. So this is what I'm saying. Jets. Okay, Darnold. 49ers. Was Garoppolo in that game? Who knows?
No, he was not. I don't think.
So Seattle. There's one. Big tough game right there. Jacksonville, Buffalo, and Cam Newton. Right. So that's what I'm talking about. Now looking at Arizona, look at their wins. that was a big win against the Seahawks. That could be, when you look back at the end of the year, where the turning point was, that could be the turning point of the year for the Arizona Cardinals. And that's the type of game they don't win in previous seasons. You're down by 10. Now you're winning those games where you think you're out. And I've been there on the sidelines. I know in the fourth quarter, when you know you feel the team has broken your will, you feel like you're never back in that game, and you're thinking about the next game, or you're thinking about what you're going to order on the way home from the, but these are things you're thinking about on the sideline.
Oh, I get it. I get your point. Yes.
Yeah. But the thing is, they're winning those games right now. Panthers, 31-21 loss. But Teddy Bridgewater, good completed quarterback, right? Yeah. Percentage. The Lions, Washington.
They turned the ball over a lot of times. They were -3 in the turnover department in the Lions game.
Yeah.
But you know what, Ron, your point is well taken. And you know what else I'm going to say is the Cardinals defense is vastly underrated, in my opinion. Seattle's going to score on everybody, Ron. But look at the rest of their games. They pretty much held the opposing offenses in check. Especially if the Lions at 26 points they scored was deceiving because of the turnovers. But I've said this time and time again, keep an eye on the safety, the strong safety for the Arizona Cardinals. He's a little bit undersized, but the kid is just a difference maker, that Budda Baker. Ron,
oh, yeah.
What a tremendous player he is. One of my favorite players in the NFL. Not a lot of people know about him on a national level, but yet, Arizona knows about him because they made him the highest paid safety in the league. And I think he deserves every penny. He's a force in the run game. He's a blitzing safety, and he's good in pass coverage as well. So keep an eye on him. He could be a difference maker in a game like this.
I've always said, Ross, on the offense, the quarterback, one of the most prestigious positions, and the leader. On defense, it's the safety. I think the safety on defense is one of the most important positions because he's the safety valve. If anything gets by the first two levels, it's all depending on that safety. And to me, the safety, if he's there, and Budda Baker's a really good one, and I can't wait to see this game. And according to the numbers, Ross, looking at the rankings, Miami ranked 11 on offense, 1 on defense, where Arizona is only one of 4 teams playing this weekend where they're single digits when it comes to rankings on offense and defense. Arizona ranked 8th on offense, 9th on defense on points against. The only other teams that have single digits rankings is Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and I believe the other one is, where is it here? Baltimore, Pittsburgh, I said. Oh, Tampa Bay. So
all elite teams, right, Ron?
Yeah, all elite teams. So, and this is what I'm saying. With a guy like Kyler Murray taking that big pivotal step into his career, being the guy, and I just got this feeling he's like another Doug Flutie. He's just a winner. Winners win. And I don't know if he's a lot like Doug Flutie. Maybe Doug Flutie was
it's similar type of style, with the exception, number one, nothing against Doug Flutie. He was one of my favorites, but Murray's got a much stronger arm at his size. And also Murray, to me, even though Doug Flutie was very athletic, this kid's like, what he reminds me of? The cartoon, The Roadrunner. Every time I watch him play, he takes off, and he's like, the guy, he reminds me of Tyreek Hill at quarterback when he runs the ball. You know what I mean? He's dynamic. And I don't know if Doug Flutie was ever as dynamic as this kid is. Now, let's not get caught up too much because he's only a year and a half in, right, Ron?
Yeah.
So we'll see if he develops even further in his career.
Yeah, no, I agree. He's got that second gear that you can't coach, right?
Yeah.
All right. The game of the week this Sunday night. We got a really good one here between the Saints and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, we all recall the beginning of the year was the marquee matchup between the Tampa Bay and the New Orleans. So a bit of a revenge factor here for Tom Brady here, who's a very proud competitor. And I'm sure, he circled this game after that loss against the Saints, 34-23 win. And looking at the line, that game was -3.5 of 49 was the total. Now going into this game, Ross, the line is 4.5, the over/under at 50.5. And according to the Rain Report, we got another Saints victory here, 25.09, 23.7, the over/under at 48.4. Both teams in the last 5 games are 4-1. The only difference is, Tampa Bay's is 2-2-1 against the number, where New Orleans is 1-4. and the last 5 games for the Saints have gone over the total. Obviously when you look at the rankings in this game, New Orleans ranks 7th on offense, averaging 29.4 points a game, ranking 23rd on defense, however, giving up 28.1, where the Buccaneers, what we just talked about, only one of 4 teams playing this weekend, single digits when it comes to rankings on offense and defense, ranking 4th on offense at 30.09, and they only seem to get better each week, and their defense, underrated, ranked number 7th, on giving up 20.6 points a game.
Yeah, and Tampa Bay's been number 1 against the run this year, and we're number 1 against the run last year. So you're right, Ron. Vastly underrated defense. And, the New Orleans Saints on a 4-game winning streak, and Ron's been harping on this all along, but they're not a team that's a cover machine. 4-0 in their last 4, but 0-3 against the spread in their last 3. Ron, much different scenario than the season opener, where Tampa Bay was still, the shortened off season, the no preseason games. They were still trying to find chemistry between Brady and his receivers. Now your favorite player, Antonio Brown, will be making his debut this week. So, and I say that sarcastically, but at the end of the day, as much as he's a malcontent off the field, the guy is a superb talent on the field. He's played with Brady before in New England. There's some familiarity there. Chris Godwin continues to be sidelined with the broken finger. Mike Evans playing not 100%, but still a very dangerous receiver, still in the red zone. And, an improved running game. This, I really like Tampa in this spot, I think, Ron. I know my buddy Chip Chirimbus, who we both know, he loves New Orleans here. So that's the only thing and I like Chip. He's a great handicapper. So that's the only thing that makes me think twice. It would be like you having a different opinion on the game.
Yeah.
It would make me look at it twice. You know what I mean? That's all. But
yeah, you done? Or
yes, I am.
Okay, sorry. I agree. I think this is a really tough game to handicap because New Orleans, and I said this last week when they went to Chicago, they're a team they're probably going to win, but do you put your money on them to cover the spread? Yeah. And now it's totally opposite. Now there's no pressure on them. They're not.
And they're an underdog, right, Ron? Instead of a favorite. Yeah.
And when they're an underdog, the last 3 seasons on the road, 14-5 against the number. And
okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Ron. And when they're playing on a Sunday, it's 13-2. Division opponents, 48-32-5 against the number the last 3 years. And after a win, 10-5. It's still Drew Brees. You know what I mean? And I know there's probably no Michael Thomas again this weekend. It's a shame that you always want the best playing the best.
Yeah.
But it says here Brees is questionable. Was listed as limited on Thursday's injury report, right shoulder. Maybe that explains a lot of things why he's not going down.
Yeah.
But you got to respect Kamara. He's there. But I think Tampa Bay at home. Look what they did to Green Bay a couple of weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, keep in mind, New Orleans 2018-2019 regular season 7-1 straight up on the road. New Orleans 2019-2020 regular season 7-1 on the road. New Orleans 2020-2021 season, which is the current year, 2-1. That's a combined 16-3 in regular season road games for New Orleans since 2018. Extremely, extremely good road team. So that's another deterrent when I look at playing Tampa Bay in this game that I have to factor in.
And you know what? This fits right into our uncomfortable pick situation, right?
Yeah.
New Orleans, I got a lot of stats on the Saints this weekend. I'm just going to, bring this over right now from our 80% club. And folks, you can get this once you're a member here at atsstats.com. What you want to do is once you get in there, once you get into the 80%, you go to the dashboard. And then once you get to the dashboard, you'll be at your dashboard page. Just down here, go to the old 80% club. And look at this. When New Orleans, a road team after a non-division game the last 2 years, 10-1 against the number. And,
wow.
But I got numbers on basically everything, right? I'm sure I got some Tampa Bay numbers.
Yeah, but I mean, again, that takes more precedent to me because they've been so good on the road since 2018, as I just alluded to. So that's not a fake. That's not a facade, Ron. I put a lot of stock in that 80% angle, or 80% or better it is.
Here's a question for you, Ross. What do you think of the total in this game?
The total right now is the last I looked before we went on air, the total was 51 at Bookmaker. You know what? You would think it all points to an over because you have these two quarterbacks and you have the dynamic wide receivers for Tampa Bay. But somehow I think, and you got New Orleans played over all year, right, Ron? If I'm not mistaken.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I don't know. I'd have to look into it further, but it's never that easy, Ron. You know what I'm saying? I can't, if we're seeing that, the general public is, I got to believe the general public's going to be banging the over in this game, especially since it's a 425 game. And for those who don't have the NFL Red Zone or Sunday Ticket or anything, it's probably going to be the only game they could watch. So I think you're going to see a lot of overaction in this game, and that would make me hesitant, Ron.
Yeah. Since 96, teams that are on a 4-game winning streak, 8-16-0 to the under. So last 3 years, not last. So the last 3 years, road teams that have a 4-game winning streak, to the under.
Like New Orleans, right?
Yeah,
and
like
that's
New Orleans.
Actually, so the people understand that that's 16 unders and 8 overs, right, Ron?
That's correct.
Okay, so 67% of the over with a pretty damn good sample size there.
Yeah. And looking at some of these numbers here, like a lot of my numbers are pointing to the under. And like you said, you got two marquee quarterbacks who are, they're not in their prime, and you got one good defense for sure in Tampa Bay. New Orleans, 23 rank, giving up 28.1 points a game. But if Tampa Bay gets ahead in this game, it's lights out because, we saw last week that, Drew Brees doesn't have the arm strength to really
we're the receivers anymore, Ron. Demaryius Thomas is coming back from COVID, but he's at the tail end of his career. I don't know what Michael Thomas's status is going into this game, but I really don't even think about that because he hasn't been there all year anyway. And when he has been there, he's been unproductive. Real interesting. I'll definitely be keeping an eye on that game, Ron. Real good matchup. Especially, I'm sorry, I said 425. It's Sunday Night Football, isn't it?
Exactly.
So even more so. Look, I think the general public's going to kill this over. So, again, keep that in mind, folks. The general public, they win once in a while, but most times than not, if they're overwhelmingly on one side or total, they're usually wrong.
Baltimore heading to Indianapolis to take on the Colts. And looking at the number here, I'm just going to take a quick check to see what the latest at 1.5. The over-under at 48.5. The ATS forecast right on the number here, Ross, 24.2 to 23.3. The over-under at 47.5. You got Lamar Jackson coming off that big emotional loss last weekend against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then you got Indianapolis coming off, I believe it was a bye. Yeah, it was a bye. And they won in Detroit easily, 41-21. And, looking at this game, when the road teams this year are a road favorite on 6 days rest, they are 17-5 straight up in their next game. And when home dogs are on 6 days rest, 5-18 straight up. So let's be honest, going into this game, Lamar Jackson, if he could just find a bit more accuracy in his throwing, he would be such a great weapon for the secondary to keep at bay. But because he's a running quarterback, you're going to have, playing more press coverage. Then when you start playing press, you can jet in those inside linebacker, cornerbacks inside those halfbacks and really contain Lamar Jackson into the pocket. That's probably a game plan that they're going to have this weekend. But Phillip Rivers, one thing I've read or heard this week is that he's not good when he faces pressure defenses. And that's going to be something I'm going to keep an eye on this weekend.
Yeah, he's got a tendency to force the ball when he's facing pressure. He's also not the most mobile quarterback in football. He wasn't when he was in his 20s, let alone at the age he is now. Something's got to give here. Indianapolis is 3-0 at home, while the Baltimore Ravens have gone 3-0 on the road. I mean, their only two losses have come at home. And the key here, Ron, if Indy has any inkling of winning this game, they need to stop the run. I mean, Baltimore is unequivocally the best running team in football the last 2 years. Of course, a lot could be allotted to the mobility of Lamar Jackson, but they're averaging 178 yards per game rushing this year. Now, on the opposite end of the spectrum here, Ron, Indy's pretty good against the run. They're only allowing 80 yards per game on the ground, and also only 3.4 yards per carry. But the X factor here is going to be Lamar Jackson. I wish teams, if they want to stop Lamar Jackson or neutralize him, I don't know if you can completely stop him. I think teams should look back to what Buffalo did against him last year, and the way they played him. Of course, Baltimore won that game, but a lot had to do with Baltimore's defense compared to their offense. But Buffalo really kept Lamar Jackson in check. And to your accuracy issues for Lamar Jackson, they say when you reach this point in your 20s, mid 20s, early 20s, Ron, you can't teach accuracy. You either have it or you don't. But you look at Josh Allen, and you saw him go from a 52% passer in his rookie year to where he's around 67 right now. You never know. So I think more the problem with Baltimore right now, Ron, is they don't have that elite receiver, that number one guy. They don't have a Stephon Diggs like Josh Allen has. They don't have a Devontae Adams like Aaron Rodgers has. They don't have a DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. Who's their top receiver is their tight end, Mark Andrews. You got to get a guy who can stretch the field, Ron.
Yeah. And you know what? Going into this game, wait, before I get to that point, your point about the Lamar Jackson, I remember watching the NFL Network about 5-7 years ago. Remember Chris Weinke, the quarterback?
Yes. Florida State guy.
Yeah. And he said, I always remember this as a quarterback coach, whenever, because he was at IMG, the high school, and he goes, whenever you get players like say 16, 17 years old, you can only fix, if they're below 16, 17, you can fix waist down. Yeah. After they're 17, 18, you can't fix waist up. And the thing is, like, you can't fix the throw in motion, because when they come to you as a quarterback coach and they want to develop, they've got over 10, 20,000 throws in them, and they're programmed mentally on the way they deliver the football. So trying to change a quarterback's mechanics is nearly impossible at the college and pro level. And, there's nothing wrong with his feet. We know that. But the thing he's really got to improve on, and this is something that it's an off-season thing, is accuracy and throwing those middle to long-range balls to be more in the arsenal of for Lamar Jackson. That's what I think that he needs to work on. And hey, nobody's perfect, right? But back to your thing about the receiving core. Yeah, he needs help. And Indianapolis, T.Y. Hilton, I love this guy, but he's always injured. Here's another one. I got a big thing with players that are great players but are always injured, and it's unfortunate. Like,
I'm sorry, Ryan.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so
you look at it. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, it's just like I said, it's unfortunate because you saw last week, as soon as he left the game against Detroit, Phillip Rivers was, subject to go to like plan B. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the difference between Phillip Rivers and a Drew Brees and a Lamar Jackson is the guys with the lesser arm strength, meaning Rivers and Brees, are adept at throwing guys open. Where Lamar Jackson, this was one of Josh Allen's problems too with his accuracy, is he's waiting for a guy to get open instead of throwing open. If you look at some of the throws that Rivers and Brees makes, Ron, he's throwing the ball before the receiver is out of their cut, is into his cut. You know what I mean? And Josh Allen, again, I'm using his as an example why he was able to improve his accuracy this year. It's from the waist down. It's like what Ron just said. You can't improve a guy from the waist up. Now, he's always had that elite arm, but if you look at why he's improved more is his footwork, squaring up on throws, not throwing off his back foot all the time. So again, it's not impossible, but improving accuracy at this stage of your development as a quarterback is most times than not doesn't happen. and he's going to get away with it because of his ability to scramble and make plays on the run. But I just don't think it's sustainable. I think at some point you got to develop your accuracy, or you have to be a passer that throws a little fear into opposing defenses. And I'll give him an excuse because of the wide receiver situation there. But sooner or later, I also want to see Lamar Jackson, like I've been touching upon time and time again, show me that he could bring a team back from a deficit in the fourth quarter. Because up until this point, he's been a front runner, and as long as they got the lead, he's a whole different quarterback. But it's even going back to Josh Allen again, Ron, and I hate to use him for an example. He's not considered a top 5 quarterback or an elite quarterback at this stage of his career, but the kid has brought back the Bills. He's been this is his 3rd year. I believe he has 8 fourth quarter comebacks with Buffalo. So that to me, I'd rather have a guy that can bring a team back from a deficit than someone who's great when he's playing with the lead and has no ability whatsoever, or hasn't shown any confidence in bringing a team back from a deficit. So again, until he does that, I'm not sold on Lamar Jackson.
Well, here's the thing. All these young quarterbacks, they have a great upside, and they all have their strengths and weaknesses. Lamar is just got to find a way to win the big games, like against the Steelers, the Chiefs, and Josh Allen. Hey, he's still developing. He's still, but I got a couple of points here. Number one, Lamar Jackson, only a 60.5 pass completion record. That's something he needs to work on, ranked 30th in the league. If you do like Indianapolis this weekend, check this out. In the last 10 games against the Ravens, they are 7-3 straight up, 9-1 against the spread, but 1-9 to the under. So a lot of things pointing to a low-scoring game here. And looking at the rankings of both these teams going into this game, it's a lot like Miami's defense. They are a respected defense, the Colts. They're ranked number 5th on defense, averaging only 19.4 points against, and 10th on offense. So you know what? It just Indianapolis needs to be more consistent. And for the Ravens, 9th on offense, 2nd in the league in defense. So this is going to be a good game. I think this is one of those quiet games that no one's talking about because we got so many good marquee matchups. And finally, Ross, when Indianapolis is a home team and the total's between 44.5 to 47, and they're coming off a road win as a favorite, 8-2 straight up in their next game. And what's the total out here now? It's at 48. So unfortunately, you got to wait for that total to come back down. But I guess it did open at 47, and that's why our line gave us that total. Let me see the line history here on this total. And it did open up at 47, and it's at 48.5, and that's why that stat was there. All right.
I would be one final point on the Indianapolis defense. Ron brought up some good points on their points allowed and their yards allowed. But remember, this team got off the first 4 games. After 4 games, they were allowing 12.6 points per game and 236 yards a contest. Over the last 3, been a totally different story. So that's a little bit of a concern for me, as they seem to have gone the other way defensively over the last 3 games. And again, I can't emphasize enough, they stopped the run, and they're going to need to stop the run against the best running team in football the last 2 years if they're going to have a chance.
Yeah, I agree. Ross, what do you got going this weekend?
Again, rbwins.com. You can get my daily picks there Monday through Sunday. I got 2 college football games up for sale right now, $35 a piece. If you want to dabble in with my weekly and monthly packages, which I would highly encourage, folks, $149 for 7 days, $499 for 30 days. You can get them either at my website, rbwins.com, or at Ron's site, atsstats.com. I give you my personal guarantee that if you're not making a profit at the end of the subscription, I will continue on with you until you do. That shows my confidence in making you money over the long haul. So you just need to invest with me initially, Ron, and I'll take care of the rest from there. And then also my NFL red hot right now, folks, 10-5 with my last 15 and 26-15 with my last 41, which is 63% since the first Monday night of the NFL season. Back to you, Ron.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you have anything going tonight, Ross, in college football?
Yeah, I 2 college games. I just
Okay.
mentioned 2 college games going tonight. So I have the only game I didn't use tonight was the San Diego State and San Jose State game. I have the other 2 games.
Well, luck has it that's the only game I got going tonight. I got a game.
Well, there you go, man. You can get all 3 of them by purchasing from us.
There you go. I got a selection on that game tonight between San Jose State and San Diego State, and also I got 4 selections for Saturday college football, and I got I will have my NFL best bet, which won again last weekend with the Indianapolis Colts. Ross, I'm 2-3 2-1 the last 3 weeks with my 5-star best bet, and I will have 5 selections ready to go. Will be locked and loaded right here at atsstats.com. All right, buddy. Hey, another Football Friday in the books. This was a good show. We had some quality information that we gave out here today. Hopefully, people use that insight we gave, and hopefully it's a winner for you guys, and we all meet up in the winner's circle. And you know what, guys? I'd like to thank everybody that showed up today. And before you go, guys, if you enjoy the show, please give us a like or leave a comment in the section. We're always, we're human, right? We enjoy feedback, and you know what? The feedback you give us will either, even if it's negative or not even constructive criticism, I don't like to use the word negative. If it's constructive criticism and if you think that can make our show better, we are always open for those suggestions and looking forward to that. But if you do love the show, just give us a like. Great show. We love you guys, and we love listening, and we love having you here on the Rain Report along with Ross Benjamin. All right, Ross, have yourself a good weekend, buddy. And hopefully all the winners be yours. He's Ross Benjamin. I'm Ron Raymond. This was the Rain Report along with Ross Benjamin for a Football Friday, November 6th. Folks, have yourself a great weekend. As always, shop for value, play those percentages. We'll see you back shortly with another Rain Report.